Italy ain't exactly perfect, but at the end of the day, does it really even matter? I'm Rafael Di Furia. Welcome back to another episode of Not Your Average Globetrotter, and roll that intro. Call me old-fashioned, but I am one of those people that does think that context matters and that it's important to have a full idea of what you're getting yourself into with some of the smallest decisions in life as well as some of the biggest decisions in life. And for some reason, there are a lot of people that seem to think online that I might hate Italy, but that's actually far from the truth. In my personal opinion, when it comes down to it, to actually be able to properly enjoy a country, or really to even properly invest yourself into something, you need to understand both the good and the bad, both the things that you're a fan of and the things that you're not a fan of. Even in a marriage, a long-lasting marriage, you may love everything about your spouse except for that one little thing. But even with that one little thing, you are still the person that loves them unconditionally. And unfortunately, there are a lot of people who misinterpret, misunderstand, and misconstrue what I might say in some of my videos, especially not watching a full episode. And granted, in the space of maybe 15, 20 minutes, 13 minutes, 30 minutes, whatever it is, it might be difficult to get every last point across, especially when it's so easy to click away. But my intentions with this project are to highlight some possibilities that you may actually find. You may never experience them. I'm just talking about my experiences as well as the experiences of others that I know. But here's the secret. There's some of these things you may never see at all. There are going to be people who live in Italy who will never experience some of the things that I talk about, but there are going to be people who experience things that are far worse than what I've ever experienced. And my intentions are not to discourage anybody from moving to wherever it is that their heart might be calling to, because at the end of the day, your desires, as long as they're not hurting somebody else, are worthwhile looking into seeing how you can potentially realize them. And for some people, those dreams may involve Italy. They might involve Switzerland. They might involve Thailand. Everybody's going to have the place that looks right for them. And in this day and age, when we're looking at so many people that are looking at a life abroad, everybody's going to have a place that appeals to them. But why are we living even in an age where everybody's looking at a life in a different country? I mean, I think really at the end of the day, like what you can find so much of on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, wherever, there's just so much floating about, oh my gosh, look at how amazing this place is. Look at how wonderful it is to go to X, Y, or Z place, to have X, Y, or Z. Pretty cynical. Of course, you know you're in Italy when that happens. And some of you thought that this was a green screen. I mean, I haven't moved the camera, so for all you guys know, this could still be a green screen. Is it a green screen? Am I actually in Italy? Conspiracy theories. I'll admit that definitely distracted me, but to get back on course in one way or another, I think in reality, if you only look at one side or the other side, you only look at one aspect, you really do lose out on what it actually is like to properly call a place home. It's only once you get to that point where you can accept everything about it, the good, the bad, that you can start to properly get yourself to that point where you can actually take the chance and actually enjoy what's there. So can you actually get to the point where you're seeing the negative side and the positive side and still enjoy it? Yes, I think actually once you have that realization there, that's the only proper way to get yourself past that point. Nowhere is going to be perfect. There's not going to be that one ultimate place that's, oh my gosh, so amazing. And very often when I'm making these videos and even saying a place is not going to be perfect, or if you're wanting this, or some people that are looking from some parts of the world that they're going to be comparing it to whatever life is like in that part of the world, or this or that or the other, I'm not always talking about the comparison between what it's like in the US and what it's like in Italy or Portugal, specifically talking about some of the countries that I've spoken about over the years a little bit more in detail. But when I'm talking about maybe you can find X, Y, or Z, maybe that you're looking for in another country, that you're looking for something a little bit more to your liking, that doesn't mean that, oh, it's of course going to be better in America. No, that is not my intention with the opinions that I have. When I'm talking about that you might be able to find something more to your liking in another country or in another part of the world, that could be here inside of the European Union, that could be in Asia, it could be in Africa, it could be South America, North America, could be anywhere. But it doesn't mean that, oh my gosh, look at how expensive America has become and this and that and the other. Yes, we all know things have gotten crazy in America land. I think that's no secret. Things have changed dramatically in the last decades. And I'm not going to say that it's because of one thing or another thing, or it's because of these people or that people, because this guy was in office or that guy was in office. This is not the place for that. This is just a place to talk about not your average globe trotting, talking about getting around the world and spending a while there to properly enjoy what it has to offer. Because if you're going to just take a vacation somewhere and you're wanting to know about what kind of exciting things can you do, yeah, that's great. That's fun. That's enjoyable. There's plenty of content like that online. But here, I think it's really important to try and look at some of the realities of living abroad because so often you're seeing just the fun side. You can't always have fun. Life is not always going to be fun every second. I mean, maybe if you're in a certain financial position in life, you can make a lot of fun, but even then, not every moment's going to be exciting. I mean, think about it, even just in the sense of being a human being. If you are constantly riding a high on natural dopamine, you're going to be numbing out your brain, and soon nothing is going to feel fun at all. So then, how are you going to be able to feel fun if you're constantly on that quote unquote high? And no, I'm not talking about substances. I'm talking about just experiencing life. There are things that we can do in life to really enjoy and have fun and that really make us feel good. And this may come as a shock, but life in another country could actually lead to some of those experiences, some of that sensory input, some of those feelings that you might experience. But of course, the longer that we spend in one place, the more that our brains are just going to become accustomed that we're just going to be walking through and everything in the background is going to blend in. It's important that one way or another you make life interesting for yourself and you don't just kind of get that tunnel vision when you're walking down the street because you could be walking down one of the most beautiful streets in the whole world. Name a street in any country, a gorgeous country, a gorgeous place with wonderful things that's so different from your own. The people who are maybe born and raised there are not going to have the same appreciation for some of that beauty, having just seen it every day and going through the motions of life. And they're not going to stop and say, oh, did you look at that window right there? Oh, look at the brick right here. It's just the scenery, the background of the day to day life. But in a country, specifically Italy, there's a lot that you can see, a lot you can do. If you do take the time to even take just short little trips, you can experience different cultures, cuisines, different dialects, different ways of living in a very small area. I mean, granted, Italy is not one of the smallest countries in the European Union, but say if you're living in certain parts of the north, you have access to other countries and other languages quite easily within a few hours. I mean, one direction is France, one direction is Switzerland. You go similar direction in a slightly different road, and you're in Austria. You go even another direction, and you'll make it to Slovenia and Croatia. And so, this is one of the real benefits and one of the exciting things that you can potentially have if you are moving to a country like Italy. It doesn't have to be Italy. But if you are wanting to experience more of the world, take those weekend trips, those afternoon trips, those day trips. There's plenty of that you can do. And these are some of the real upsides to calling a country like Italy, or specifically Italy, home. Italy's an amazing place. It has an amazing quality of life. But of course, with that quality of life and the amazing things that Italy has to offer, there are also the realities. And that's why sometimes I try to highlight the realities and not just the beautiful, wonderful things that the country has to offer. There are some cities in the country that could take you literally a lifetime to properly and fully explore. There's no end to what you might find if you just dig a little deeper. I mean, sometimes even quite literally. Don't dig. Definitely don't turn up any ground that you don't have permission to. So just making that clear here. But everywhere you go in this part of the world, you cannot avoid coming across a piece of the ancient world, ancient culture, someone's life. I mean, they've dug up random places and all of a sudden they're in the middle of someone's kitchen. Can you imagine? I mean, especially someone coming from the US, a country where, yes, there have been people for a long time. It's crazy to think about someone's home, a pub, a restaurant, being older than the country maybe that you grew up in. I mean, the country I grew up in. I mean, there's plenty if you just walk around the streets where I am right now. And if it's not the original that once stood there, maybe a facsimile, a recreation, or whatever it was, still the position that people have put their time, energy, and their beings into a particular place, I think that really says something. It is wonderful to have history, culture, art around you, but on a practical day to day basis, what difference is that actually going to make to your life? Yeah, it's fun at the beginning. There are certain wonderful things about being able to walk around and see and say, oh, look at that window, or look at that, da, 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 da. But when you are going through the motions of day to day life, is that really going to make a difference to you? Is that really, after 10 years, going to be something that you're noticing? Realistically, I know there's probably going to be someone thinking, oh my gosh, Italy's just perfect. It's amazing everywhere you go. And I'm going to enjoy it because it's the most cultured and this and that and the other. But you can be in the most beautiful place, but after a certain amount of time, it becomes normal. So, yes, there are some of those fun things that are the initial pull to make your life in a country like Italy, or specifically Italy again. But to really be living in a place like Italy, or specifically Italy, it takes a lot more. There are the day to day motions of the things that you do, the people around you, your friends, your family, or maybe your family's on the other side of the world. Are you still feeling that part? Are you still feeling that pull to wherever it is that you came from? I mean, I've mentioned it in plenty of episodes that even the mentality of where is home and getting rid of life in the old country, but more so when it comes to the mentality. Because if you are going to be living on the other side of the world and you're still thinking about, well, back home they do things like this or they do things like that, or, that one restaurant back home that was so delicious, it was amazing. Oh, back home, me and my friends do that. If you're talking about the other place as back home or as home and you still think of it that way, then you're missing out on really setting down roots where you are. If you can eventually get to the point where home is where you are, home is the place that you make it, then there are changes that come along with it. Of course, this includes learning the language, although even though I say in almost every episode, it feels like that learning the language is important, there are going to be countries where a person could go and learning the language might not necessarily be as important. And you may find places that it will be impossible to integrate or assimilate. There are going to be places where you're just simply not going to be welcome if you weren't born there, if you aren't somebody who's originally from that place. Even I will say, being in Italy, that can be a challenge, especially if you're in smaller towns. Of course, not everybody. There are going to be people who come to Italy and that they find that they have a great friend group and that they really integrate, they feel like they're part of it. But it's not uncommon to find people having their same friends from when they had in elementary school and through high school. I mean, depending on where you are, I mean, people could really spend a huge amount of their lives together and have those tight bonds from an early age. And when you've had those tight bonds from an early age, and I'm not saying this is a bad thing in any way, but letting other people in can be a challenge. And this is not a bad thing. It's not a good thing. It's just a difference that some people may or may not experience. And you might even see this in the States. You could see this in Germany. You could see this in India. Wherever you go, we're talking about human beings at the end of the day. But unfortunately, I have seen a lot of people even come to Italy and that they learn the language. They do their best to integrate. They do everything the way you're supposed to. But somehow still, they haven't been able to fully integrate for whatever reason and make a life in this new country. Think about where you're from. Think about, maybe there are going to be some places where people who are from abroad can integrate perfectly and they settle into society. But then there are going to be other people who just find themselves on the periphery. And there might be places where one individual might be able to assimilate and integrate just perfectly, and they are going to have an amazing time. But then that same person could go to a completely different country and have the completely opposite experience. That's why even in the episodes of Not Your Average Globetrotter, talking about this country or that country and which country should you even think about, I never give you a final answer of where to move and why, because for each individual, there's going to be a different answer. I mean, even on last week's video, someone asked the question, having lived in Portugal and Italy, where do I prefer? And at the end of the day, I mean, I have things about one country that I really like, and I have things about the other country that I also really enjoy. And it's like, maybe this one particular thing I really enjoy, just like a shortened version of the example I gave was that, like, something I really enjoy about being in Portugal, and it's a stupid thing, is that you can use Uber there and Bolt and some of these ride sharing apps. But in Italy, I happen to like the train system here. It's an amazing train system. And I would say in no way could you even compare the Portuguese train system to the Italian train system. I mean, the networks in Italy are pretty amazing, especially if you want to get to the more main cities, you want to get to smaller towns. It's not going to be perfect, but I would say probably you'll have more options than smaller towns, at least a lot of smaller towns in Portugal. Again, it doesn't really matter, but if you say one country or the other, I like different things about each one. I do plan to move back to Italy. I don't hate it. And the things that I really love about Italy, even for all the challenges that exist, still draw me in. And it's because of my ability to look at what exists here, what I know I will have to face. I know I'm doing the best that I can to give myself the most possibility and best chance of being able to enjoy life here. And that delayed gratification, I think, is actually something that I've been looking at. And that little bit of delayed gratification to make my home here again is something that I know for me could make a real big difference. And whenever you're looking at moving abroad, yeah, okay, you want to escape your country, you want to go and live, and because the other country is so amazing, but is it the right time for you? Can you actually properly make the life for yourself in that new country? But you're the only one that's going to be able to find that out. And even when you get to the next country, maybe you will find that the timing actually just isn't right and that it isn't quite the right time for you. And the thing is, there's nothing wrong with that. But anyway, this is another episode of Not Your Average Globetrotter. I am Rafael Di Furia. Thank you so much for joining me for this episode. A huge thank you, of course, to those of you who helped to make these episodes possible through the monthly support on Patreon, as well as the thanks button here on YouTube, as well as rafaeldifuria.com/support. And a huge thank you, of course, also to those of you who participate in the conversation and are the ones who let me know your thoughts down in the conversation below. It's always really interesting to hear what you guys have to say. I mean, especially like in last week's video, some of the comments that you guys left, I mean, really got me thinking. And to hear your experiences and the realities that you've seen, and sometimes it's similar or different from mine, it's always interesting to hear what you guys have experienced. But anyway, I'm just going to cut it off here. As you guys know, I could definitely keep on rambling for a long time. So again, I'm Rafael Di Furia. This has been another episode of Not Your Average Globetrotter, and I'll see y'all next time. Later.